Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. I'm going to talk about Idalia as well as our heavy rain threat. Couple things. If you're watching me in Florida or the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, please take warnings and evacuation orders seriously. This could be a significant hurricane, especially in Florida. But for the Carolinas in particular, my area, Western North Carolina, South Carolina to the coast, we're still going to see heavy rain here, regardless of the track of Idalia. And that's important because we've got a stalled front and a lot of moisture over us today that is going to produce a lot of rainfall. So even without the tropical systems, we're going to see heavy rain this week. It's just that Idalia's influence is going to add to the problem. So first things first, boy, Franklin, thank goodness this thing's staying offshore. That's a Cat 4, folks. That borderline could be going even stronger. It is a perfectly symmetrical eye wall. There's nothing to stop that from continuing to strengthen, just eye wall replacement cycles. That will not directly impact the United States, but in Bermuda, heads up. Our concern is down here. This is Idalia. It is getting stronger. There's a lot of moisture. It could go through rapid intensification. So if you're on the west coast of Florida, don't take this storm lightly. We learned a hard lesson with Ian. I hope a lot of people did. A lot of people lost their lives. You cannot look at the center of the track. The whole west coast of Florida is under risk. Please evacuate if told so, regardless of where the center goes. The impacts are hundreds of miles from the center. The center, you have to miss the storm by hundreds of miles, not by 10, 15, 20. If the storm goes to your north, south, it doesn't matter. It needs to miss the entire state, okay? It's not one of those things. The tracks are for the center, not for the width. And what I mean by that is, and for folks to understand, we're tracking a single point for the cone. The storm is this wide. So if the center's here, you're still in the storm. You need to be out here, not east, just a little bit north or south of the center. You need to miss the entire storm. So just, people in Florida should know, but unfortunately people still just look at the center and they don't pay attention to the track and the cone, the width of it. So for us in the Carolinas, we've got a stalled front. We're going to see rain today and tomorrow, regardless of these tropical systems. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to turn off the satellite data. We do have a low-end severe weather risk today, very low. It's not as huge a deal as the flash flood risk, but there could be a strong storm or two. Then you see the impacts of Idalia on the coast. That's where we're going to see the main impacts. As far as rainfall, that's a bigger deal. So the flash flood guidance, see the orange or yellow circle? That's a medium risk for flash flooding today. Tomorrow, we're in it as well. This down here is the beginnings of the tropical system. This is still just the stalled front. So again, the next 2 days, next 48 hours, rainfall has nothing to do with the tropical system. It's just the stalled front. Now, getting into Wednesday, this is with the tropical system. You see the low, medium, and high risk along the coast. So we've got potential for some real heavy rain as that starts interacting with the same front. And I'm going to talk about this moisture because it's really key to the whole thing. So this map here shows something we call precipitable water. It's basically the amount of moisture for rainfall. You see all this dark green? It is really off the charts. So this is with the stalled front. This is why today and tomorrow we have so much. This is not associated with the tropical system. It's just the stalled front and a ton of moisture. You can see today and tomorrow we've got a ton of it. Now we get into Wednesday, you start seeing the dry air trying to move in from the north, but look what's coming in from the south. This is our tropical system right here. So this is going to be a really sharp cutoff. Dry air trying to move in, and then big plume of moisture. So there's likely going to be a big heavy rain band here on Wednesday. Where does that set up? Is it a little bit further north? Is it a little bit further south? Wherever it sets up, and I think it's going to be in here, just to our southeast, is going to be off the charts. But you can see how much moisture is there through Thursday. By Thursday night, it moves off. And look at the dry air moving. Boy, Friday, Saturday looks really dry and nice as that moisture moves out. And that's the main steering mechanism as well. As I back this up, high pressure here over the middle of the Atlantic. That's the high pressure system there. We've got this trough digging in. So this is going to help push both of these systems off the East Coast. But the problem is this is going to come over Florida like this. Now, this trough digging down will help make the storm stronger. I'm going to show you the water temperatures down there, which are off the charts. But the thing that's really scary is that you've got warm water temperatures as well as, I'm going to turn that off. We've got really warm water temperatures down here, but also the outflow is going to be enhanced. What I mean by that is this trough is actually going to help vent the storm. It's like if you had a fire and you start putting a chimney on it to vent it and let cold or dry and or hot air get pulled in. So think about blowing on a fire. The bellows. You ever had the bellows and you do that in the fireplace, or you blow on it with a leaf blower and the fire goes crazy? That's what's happening. That venting causes the storm to go crazy, on top of the fact that we've got basically high octane fuel in this really warm water. I mean, this is above average water in the whole eastern Gulf of Mexico. It is absolutely off the charts warm here. And it's not shallow warm water, it's deep warm water. So this has all the potential, unfortunately, to go through rapid intensification. Some of the guidance is up to Cat 3, but we're seeing some indications there's a 33% chance in the next 24 hours for rapid intensification, which means it goes from a Cat 1 to a Cat 3 in 12 or 24 hours. Could be even stronger. So that's the other reason in Florida, boy, you just cannot let your guard down on this thing. Now, the super ensembles are pretty well aligned. This is actually some good news from a track standpoint. The track is pretty straightforward right here. That's a high probability track. What's not high probability is intensity. Intensity forecasting is the one thing we lack really good skill at. We know it's going to get stronger, but timing out this rapid intensification is tough. So that's why if you're on the west coast of Florida, you have just got to take this storm seriously, because storm surge is our biggest issue. Look at this, storm surge all the way on the west coast. Now, people get caught up in this red area, but this is a huge area. If the center is here, this is how far the storm surge is north and south of the center. If it's here, you just shift everything down. But you can see there's a storm surge risk for the entire west coast of Florida. So if you're on the west coast of Florida, evacuate, evacuate, evacuate if you're on the coast. If you're in a flood area, move. You run from the water and you hide from the wind. So please take those precautions seriously. So let's go back to the forecast. We'll get into the models, show you some of the short range and then the long range as the moisture moves north. All right, so let's focus on the short range. So remember, Monday and Tuesday in the Carolinas, this has nothing to do with the tropical system. This is just the stalled front. So you can see into the afternoon, we expect some waves of heavy rain to develop. And these are slow-moving thunderstorms, and that's the concern. Ground is saturated from some rain on Sunday. So any additional rain today is going to cause flooding. You see the waves of rain, especially tonight, into the overnight hours. And that's the thing about this setup. You can see rain well into the overnight hours and early in the morning. We'll go into Tuesday morning. You can see the rain re-intensifying. So Monday and Tuesday, these scattered showers and waves of storms, not directly associated with our tropical system. As we get into Wednesday, I'm going to go down to the south. You can see our hurricane at this time. It's going to be, Hurricane Idalia moving up to the north. Now, notice all the rain that's well ahead of it. What's interesting about this setup is because of this stalled front and the trough digging down, the flow of moisture around the tropical system can interact with this and cause heavy rain bands to develop up in this area. So as we go through time, watch that rain band expand northeast. You see the shape of the hurricane? So the center is down here, right? Look at this. This is an indication you're getting a big outflow to the northeast, and you're also squeezing it against the trough. So you're seeing heavy rain develop well ahead of the system. So in South Carolina into North Carolina, you see heavy rain. And because this system is likely going to be right near the coast, you're going to see really strong surge even on the South Carolina, North Carolina coast. So for folks watching on the coast, don't let your guard down here. A Wednesday is an astronomical high tide because it's a full moon. It's the blue moon. It's the second full moon in August. So that's going to make the water levels much higher. So as that wave action kicks in and we have astronomical high tides, there will be more flooding on the coast than you can anticipate for a system like this. So just be ready. There's likely going to be coastal flooding and beach erosion and maybe even some storm surge in that 4 to 5 foot, maybe 6 foot range. But that's where the system is tracking. Let's go a little bit further into the future. All right, so we're going a little further out in the future, so the resolution of the model drops just a little bit, but you can see as we go into Wednesday night, heavy rain over us. So Wednesday night into Thursday is the worst of it. But remember, too, there's going to be some wind in this as well, especially if it perks up to a category 3 or 4. But the wave action here and the surge is going to be something not to let your guard down. I think people see these low pressure systems and sometimes these hurricanes or tropical systems hugging the coast and kind of forget that flow around it is like this. So that's pushing water up against the coast, which is got this concave shape to it, and the water just piles up over days, especially, like I said, astronomical high tides this week. So the tides are already running higher. What happens when the wind pushes towards the coast? Each high tide is a little bit higher and the low tide doesn't go down as low. So each tide cycle becomes higher and higher through time until the winds shift offshore. This is early on Thursday morning. This is 11 a.m. You can see into the afternoon, the rain is still around. So Thursday doesn't look to be great, but by Friday, we should see the system moving off the coast and out of here. So for folks wondering about the holiday weekend, it is going to exit the region, but Wednesday, Thursday looks to be the worst of it. So let's talk about rainfall and wind speeds. All right, let's quickly talk about rain because the potential is there. And this could change a lot based on the track and the interaction with the trough. But you can see today, this is day one. See all this rain up in the Carolinas? It's detached from our tropic. That's because that's the stalled front. We go to day two, still just the stalled front. But look at the heavy rain moving into Florida. Day three, now we're starting to get some interaction with the front. Day four, day five, six. We'll go through day seven. You can see the forecast here is shifted most of the heavy rain to the coast, but again, this is something you have to pay attention to the forecast. This heavy rain band, which is setting up along the coast here, this could shift inland a little bit, or it even could shift off. So that's the thing we're watching. That's why the track's important for the amount of rain. Now, I get a lot of questions about wind, and wind is important. I'm not downplaying the wind, but remember, category of storms and wind does cause damage, but it's the water that is the number one killer. Storm surge and freshwater flooding. So it's not that I'm downplaying the wind, but you need to focus on the water. That's the thing that gets people. It's not the wind. It's definitely the water. So here's the wind forecast. You could see obviously along the track we could have significant wind damage. But what's interesting is on the coast of South Carolina, could be significant wind there as well, because most of the storm is going to be over water. Even though this is the center, and again, this is where you get caught up in where the center is. The center is here, but you've got this big blob of thunderstorms like this. Most of the storms are still over water, so they're tapping into that hot water of the Gulf Stream. And so those winds could stay very strong, especially in the immediate coast. Start looking at some of the forecast here as we go through 60 hours. You see some of these stronger winds. Again, that brown is, 65, 70 mile an hour winds along the coast. Inland, you don't see much. So it's really the coastal sections and then right along the track. So if I'm in the Outer Banks or any flash flood prone or storm surge prone area, I'm going to treat this storm very seriously. I am not going to take it lightly at all, and pay attention for continuous updates on the track. Again, every little shift to the southeast is better. You do not want to be along or right of the track. And what I mean by that is, let's go back to our ensemble forecast, because I think this does the best job, honestly, of kind of showing you what to look at. If you're anywhere in this yellow to orange area, there's a moderate to high risk of you being impacted by damaging winds and storm surge. So this is a pretty big risk area, but you can see how the gradient kind of falls off here. So anywhere in here and then east of the center, that's the worst weather. Here it's pretty bad, but then there's almost nothing here. So any little shift this way is bad, but also any little shift this way pulls that stuff further away. So you do not want to be along or right of the track, we call it. So the track's moving northeast. If you're in the line of that, or to the right, even by a couple hundred miles, that's why in Florida, you got to be careful. People, with Ian, we're like, oh, it's going to Tampa. But yeah, you're still on the east side of the storm. That's the bad side. So a landfall up here, if you're down here, you're going to get huge storm surge. Okay? Here, less storm surge. It's the right side. So, this shift to the north, it's not missing you. It's actually putting you in the worst weather. So just be cautious with these tracks. We hopefully learned some valuable lessons last year. I'll post updates. We should get an update, the 11 o'clock advisory. I will automatically post those just to give you updates. But stay weather aware this week in the Carolinas for potential flash flooding. I will do more vlogs like this. This is a long one, I know, but it's a very complex situation with the stalled front and the tropical systems. I'll try to post updates as frequently as possible, and please share them with all your friends in the Southeast. I try to do the best job to cover everybody and get everybody prepared for these tropical systems.